Systems thinking is all about mindset, and that mindset can be uncomfortable. And that's because we've been trained to think linearly. You have a problem, you look for the causes, and then you have a solution. Real-world problems rarely work this way. In the last video, we talked about expanding boundaries. Have you ever seen something on the news where we looked at seeing the system around a problem? In this video, we'll look at the root causes of the problem. Root causes are not the first ones you find. It is the underlying structures, values, and beliefs that keep the problem happening. It's the bottom layer of an iceberg model. However, many students treat it like another category to fill in instead of a destination to get to. And students feel like root causes have to be big and novel. But remember, the purpose of systems thinking is to get the complex issues and make them simpler to understand. The first obvious tool to revealing root causes is the iceberg model. After exploring the iceberg model a little deeper and getting to the bottom, ask yourself a series of 5 whys, and then you'll start to see how effectively you can distill each layer and see its essential truth. Each time you ask why, you'll be surprised at how simple your answers will be. For example, here's an iceberg model on youth homelessness. There are lots of factors, but what's at the core? How can people ask me questions and I give them a simple answer?
So why do youth aging out of care become homeless? Because support ends abruptly at age 18 or 19. But why? Policy defines adulthood as the point of which state is no longer responsible. But why? Adults are responsible for their outcomes regardless of their history. So then, why? Well, I guess the root cause of it all is that adults are expected to be self-reliant and they don't really look at what their childhood history is like.
Another useful tool for finding root causes is following the money. This is one of the most practical questions you can ask in systems thinking, even though it rarely appears in textbooks. And no, you don't need financial reports. Just map out the flow of money between actors and incentive costs. To help yourself with mapping this, ask yourself these questions. What's the problem? Who pays? Who profits? Who loses money if the problem is fixed? And once you're done answering these questions, you can then look for misaligned incentives. When your incentives are rewarding the problem, then the system will continue to produce it. For example, let's look at why unhealthy foods are everywhere. We know the actors, so now let's list them. And then let's draw connections between who gains and who pays. And lastly, let's look at who's benefiting from the current system. As a result, we'll see that there are fast food chains everywhere. And the root cause of this is that the economic incentives reward cheap processed food. Remember, this doesn't always mean that there's going to be a villain to blame. Sometimes there's not a single person that's holding the problem in place, but money, financial structures, and economic incentives do shape what gets prioritized, what gets researched, and what gets changed. So instead of focusing on blaming, which brings the conversation to who's wrong and who's right, we focus on finding yourself in the system. To recognize yourself and your role in the system is the hardest step in finding the meaningful root cause. Maybe you believe that success only comes from individual effort. Maybe you believe that systems change slowly, so individuals can't do much. Maybe you've never questioned if the system was designed for the people it affects most. Root cause analysis requires intellectual honesty. You cannot map a system if you refuse to see where you stand inside it.
So how do we know we're getting close to the root cause?
Good question. There's usually 3 signals.
What's the first one?
The first one is when you usually start hearing things like, it's just the way it's always been.
Like when people treat it like normal?
Exactly. And systems that seemed permanent before have also started shifting, just like women's rights. Back then, they didn't have the right to vote or any civil rights, but now they do.
So what's the second signal?
Second signal is when individual behaviors start moving towards more structural or political behaviors.
Oh, I get it. So instead of asking why people are making bad choices, you start asking how's the system shaping those choices?
Exactly. And the third signal, it's when the explanation becomes too uncomfortable to say out loud.
You mean racism, colonialism, intergenerational wealth?
Exactly. In systems thinking, comfort means you're only scratching the surface. And discomfort means you're getting closer to the root cause. And every major social change has someone asking, Why everything stayed the same way for a long time? You are close to the root cause. Are you ready for the next step?